We are back with another episode of Queens Off the Clock. I'm Sam McBride here with my favorite blonde, Kristen Holstrom. And
Hey,
today
hey.
we just wanted to jump on real quick and talk about the recent Lancaster, California case, the murder of Sheylla Gutierrez Cabrera and the chilling effects of that. Many of you have probably seen a wildly circulated video of Mr. Cabrera, her husband, dragging a big sack across what looks like I don't know if it was a Ring camera, but
Yeah, I think that
it's
or a security footage from the apartment complex, but similar to a Ring camera.
right. And so she disappeared on August 12th of 2025 in Lancaster and was reported as missing. And then 4 short days later, on August 16th, in Los Angeles National Forest, her body was found wrapped in fabric. And again, the fabric looks or appears to be matching the fabric that was pictured in the security footage the day that she disappeared, being taken out by Mr. Cabrera. He is the primary suspect in this case. He's 36 years old, and he fled to Peru with their 3 children, which is very scary. My understanding is that he was briefly detained at the Lima airport but released, and no charges were filed at that time. Current status is that the children are back under the protective care of the maternal family, thankfully. So they've been returned back to Los Angeles. So that's very good news. And that's pretty heart-wrenching considering that he had them for quite some time before they were returned. And the latest is homicide detectives are really preparing their case to present to the district attorney. And we're hoping that no charges have been formally filed at this point, but seems pretty obvious where the evidence is leading. Of course, we don't know all the facts. This is just Kristen and I on here looking at the pending reports, allegations. When we're talking, this is about things that we're potentially and often speculating about. We're just talking about stories, trying to get to the bottom of it, and really looking at things from a different angle. And right now, all things certainly point to Mr. Cabrera.
Yeah, and Sam and I were filming yesterday for our other channel, which is Custody Queens, and that is more of a custody, legal analysis, a radio/podcast type show. And if you are interested in that, make sure you head over there. We do cover a lot of things related to family law and family centered issues and issues involving children, and kind of pro tips and real life advice of being family law litigators for the last decade plus. We are both certified family law specialists. But we were filming yesterday, and this is one of those things where it pops up on your phone, and you're like, you literally stand there and you're like, what the actual F, right? Like, what am I reading? What am I seeing? A guy is holding a sheet, and clearly by the looks of what he was carrying, it had to have been a smaller person in the sheet because he was holding it almost like he was just, walking out with a pile of very heavy laundry. But I read it, and Sam and I were filming, and I was like, wait, am I reading this right? Like, this is crazy. And it's another case in California. Like, what is going on in California? Like, in the last, I don't know, week-ish, the last 2 weeks, we have had, potential kidnapping, assault gone completely awry. And now we have, a husband allegedly killing his wife, wrapping her in a bed sheet. And then, she's found in the forest wrapped in a material that's similar to, or actually maybe the same as what, he is witnessed walking out of his apartment carrying. But this is a lot in California. And what's interesting is both of these cases have a family law component to it. We have kids on both sides. We have CPS, Child Protective Services, coming in and taking and protecting the other children in this case. And while I have my own issues and opinions about CPS, I do think they got it right on both of these cases, and I don't always think they get it right. I actually often think there's a lot more that can be done. This was it's another case of a breakdown between a husband and wife where somebody results in, unaliving someone or an abduction or an assault, rather than going through a divorce or just leaving the partner. And
And
this
I'm
is something
so
I don't get.
glad. I'm so glad that you brought that point up because I think that that is such a big overlapping issue here. Now, as I understand, friends and neighbors were reporting that Sheylla actually she was wanting a divorce and there is a history of domestic violence in this case.
Quite
And
bad.
that is really very concerning and something that just I want to take a minute, especially Kristen and I are certified family law specialists in California to talk about restraining orders and domestic violence, and you can never really change the facts. And honestly, as doing this for as long as Kristen and I have, I think we both realize that sometimes there are things that you can prevent and sometimes there's things you can't. But one large issue that we hear and see and litigate far too often is domestic violence and restraining order cases. And it is so critical with restraining order cases to have a safety plan in place. It sounds like people near to her really knew that something was going on. Again, I don't know that something could have changed these facts. You never know. People are unpredictable. But certainly a restraining order is a first step. And often when you're filing a restraining order, you don't necessarily want to let the other person know, hey, I'm going to be leaving you. Hey, I'm going to be receiving an order for protection because sometimes that can escalate things. Again, not saying that's what happened here, but it's a big issue. If you know you have to take every restraining order case, domestic violence case seriously. And it might seem like it was an isolated incident, but this is one of those areas where I think Chris and I both agree, be conservative with it. If your safety's at risk, you think it might be at risk, I would not double guess yourself or second guess yourself or your children. A lot of times you can provide them in your order of protection, especially in California. You can. Anyone living in your household or your minor children could be included in that order for protection.
Yeah, and just a little pro tip, as Sam likes to do in our other shows, and she's 100% right. So when somebody is saying they want a restraining order, there's usually a reason that they're saying that, and usually people will often minimize some abuse that may be going on at home. So a restraining order is either used sometimes as a strategic thing because it has a huge impact in a custody case, and more often than not, it's actually needed. But you can file for a restraining order without even filing for custody visitation or support. You can file for a restraining order. There is no filing fee for a restraining order. There are people at the courthouses, they usually have a family law facilitator that can help you with this. And they do have people there that are bilingual that can, make sure that your story is and your, yeah, for lack of better words, your story and your details are being put down on the paper. And depending on what county you're in every different county in California, the procedures do vary slightly. But if you have a friend that is saying, hey, I want one, generally there is stuff going on at home that you may not be aware of. If all of a sudden out of nowhere somebody wants one when you're in the middle of a divorce, yes, there often, can be other reasons that somebody would pursue one. But that if her friends were saying she wanted one, it is very likely that some pretty bad stuff was going on.
And certainly every case is different. And if you have a specific family law issue, you can go over to Kristen and I's page, Custody Queens. You can give us a call and we can go through the intricacies of your case because advice is going to depend on your facts. In every restraining order, and I rarely say every, but in every restraining order, you should have a safety plan along with that. And a lot of times that is basically letting them know if you need to give notice depending on your county at the last moment. There's normally exceptions to that, even in those counties where you need to give notice. But when somebody is actually served with a temporary restraining order, really, especially in California, a lot of times you can add some extra layers of protection. You can potentially have a sheriff that is serving that order, that is escorting that individual now restrained out of your house. So there are ways to help you be safe, even if you think, look, I don't have friends or family that I can go to for support. There are potential protections out there for you. And so we certainly want to make sure that everyone really out there knows that. And this is just sort of a chilling case that brings up a far too often issue that happens in Kristen and I's day-to-day practice. I know that domestic violence is talked about a lot out there, but you would be so surprised how frequent it happens. It happens to everyone. It doesn't discriminate, and it's really a scary situation. So keep yourself safe out there. Like Kristen said, go to legal aid, call us, call any attorney really, and get yourself protected.
Yeah, and we go into the whole process and what is abuse under the family code. and what warrants a restraining order. And honestly, it's a lot broader than most people think. It covers everything from, harassment and sending 30 text messages a day, waking someone in the middle of the night up because, God damn it, you want to talk to them right now. It's not just, physical abuse. And so we have a lot of episodes and many with doctors and experts and psychologists and psychiatrists who kind of go into more in depth about what that looks like. But with respect to the safety plan, Sam is right, because I do think one of the biggest issues I see just preliminary with this case is that we have a woman, a mom, who has 3 small children, who is clearly suffering from some abuse, mental, emotional, at a minimum, telling her friends that she wants a divorce and she needs a restraining order. And again, we don't know if it could have been stopped, but there are options. There are shelters. There are homes, where people, the victims of domestic violence, can go and they can get some temporary help, even beyond temporary. But there are ways, there are places. And nowadays, with air tags and everything, it is so easy to track and follow. And it's just there's so much these days, but there are solutions. There are. So if you are interested in the domestic violence restraining order process, or this is something that pertains to you, please go over to Custody Queens on YouTube. That is our other channel. Make sure you like and subscribe both channels if this is something you like. We do have a lot of really cool guests, and we try to take everything on a real life practical approach. We don't want to sit here and read you the family code because that does nothing for anyone, including myself. But we do like to talk about it and how it affects true crime, real life cases in your backyard, and just real life events that we all go through. And we will be following all of the updates with this case. It is my understanding he has been detained at this point, and that California is working with Peru on some sort of extradition.
So we will see how that goes. And again, everyone, keep yourself safe out there. Until next time.
Yes. And Sheylla's family, we are with you. We are here for you. And we are so glad that those babies are removed and protected. But thank you for joining us. And remember, question everything. And we will see you on the next one.